Good afternoon, Namibia and the world, and welcome to another session here at the Government Information Center. Thank you for making the time to be with us this afternoon. And our topic is one that is really pertinent at this particular moment throughout the whole country, as we are looking at the clarification of the advanced subsidiary, which is the AS level. But before we do that and divulge into the topic, we would like to call on our very own Dr. Kalumbi Shangula so that he can give us the COVID update for, is it the 22nd, Honorable? Is it the 22nd of February? Is that the COVID update that we're having today?
That's correct.
Okay, over to you.
That's correct. Good afternoon, esteemed panelists, moderator, fellow Namibians. I present to you the results of the report of the 22nd of February 2022. We have received 1,232 results in the last 24 hours reporting cycle, and out of those, 26 of them have tested positive for COVID-19, which translate into a 21% positivity ratio. 24 are new cases and 2 are reinfection. They are made up of 15 males and 15 males and 11 females. The age range from 1 year to 92 years. They are as follow: Comas 9, all from Windhoek; Oshkoto 5, all from Tsumeb; Ochadanjupa 3 from Hanja; Omaheke 3 from Khobabis; Erongo 2 from Swakopmund; Kavango East 1 from Rundu; Kunene 1 from Opua. We are reporting cases from 8 regions, as you could see above. Among them, there are 5 learners. They come from different schools, and 1 healthcare worker. 9 are fully vaccinated, of which 1 have received a booster dose, while 18, they are not vaccinated, accounting for 69.2% of the total confirmed cases. 68 cases have recovered as follows: Comas 50, Zambezi 6, Ochadanjupa and Hangwena 3 each, Karas, Kunene and Oshikoto 2 each. The number of active cases now stands as 2,564. 37 are currently hospitalized across all 8 regions. 4 of the hospitalized cases are fully vaccinated, while 33 are not vaccinated, constituting 89.2%. 3 cases are in intensive care unit, and none of the patients in intensive care unit is vaccinated. We are reporting 2 COVID-19 deaths from Katima-Mulilo district. That is 2 males, aged 78 and 89 years respectively, and all of them are home death who died on the 20th of February, and none of the deceased was vaccinated. By the 21st of February 2022, a total of 430,518 people aged 18 years and above have received 1 dose of COVID-19 vaccines, representing 29.2% of the target population of 1,471,973. A total of 122,654 have received the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, while 248,613 adults have received 2 doses of other vaccines type. Hence, 371,267 adults have completed their vaccination schedule, translating into 25.2% of the target adult population. 407 children aged between 12 and 17 years have received one dose of the Pfizer vaccine, which represents 3.1% of the target population of 307,298. Of this, 1,796 are fully vaccinated. Hence, the cumulative number of people vaccinated with the first dose of COVID-19 vaccines for both adults and children stands at 439,925, of which 373,063 are fully vaccinated, translating into 21% of the total target population. 25,309 people have received COVID-19 vaccines booster dose. In terms of summary, the cumulative number of newly confirmed individuals is 157,084. The cumulative cases, including the reinfection, now stand at 159,154, with 152,571 have recovered successfully, translating into 97.1%. Total number of deaths due to COVID proper, 3,676, with 328 as COVID-19 related deaths, bringing the total number of deaths thus far at 4,004. 949,780 samples have been tested so far. The cumulative number of people who have ever been quarantined is 88,487, of which 87,924 have been discharged, leaving 565 individuals still in quarantine facilities. As appeared from the statistic which I have just stated, none of the regions have recorded new cases of more than 10. This is a good indication, and I would like to thank the public for taking all the necessary measures to prevent further spread of the transmission. And this is the way to go so that we bring our country back to normal life. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kalumbi Shangula, and always a great appreciation for the ministry's efforts to try and make sure that we are constantly updated with regards to the statistics of COVID-19 in our country. And as he said, very good news, no more than 10 infections recorded in all the regions. So kudos, Namibia, for all your efforts that you put in, but the threat is not gone. So we should continue to practice social distancing, sanitizing our hands, washing our hands regularly with running water and soap, as well as disinfecting our surfaces, including doorknobs, car handles, and so forth. Getting back to the afternoon's session, as we said, we are clarifying. It is called the clarification of the advanced subsidiary, which is shortly known as AS level. And in the studio this afternoon, I have two panelists that will be assisting us to go into the topic and try and get as much detail out to our public and our parents and our learners as possible. We have Ms. Ida Born, and she is the Deputy Executive Director for Formal Education with the Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture. Good afternoon, ma'am. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having us. Good afternoon to you and the viewers.
Yes,
Thank you.
and we also have Dr. Patrick Simalumba, who is the director of the National Institute for Educational Development, NIET, which also falls under the Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture. Good afternoon, Doctor. How are you this afternoon?
Good afternoon, Desiree, and good afternoon, listeners and viewers.
Thank you. Now, let us get into it. We're going to start our first question, and we're posing it to Dr. Simalumba. We want to find out, can you give us background, the reasons and or prompting factors for, number one, the reason why the curriculum was revised and why we had an introduction of a new curriculum? We also want to understand the rationale behind having two exiting points or examinations from the secondary education to tertiary education, as well as what does the advanced subsidiary level entail and its replacement of the higher level curriculum of the past. Can you just give us clarity on that and background?
Thank you very much. First, I should indicate that curriculum reform is always a natural process in all countries, that after 5 years or 6 years, depending on the cycle a country is following, the curriculum should be revised in order to respond to the challenges and the issues which are raising, and to respond to the needs of a society. But it depends, it can be a minor revision or a major revision. In this case, it was a major revision which affected the structure of the school phases. I should indicate here that everything came after the Conference of Education in 2011, in which recommendations and directives were provided for the ministry to carry out. At this conference, more than 2,000 people attended from the regions, representing various individuals or part of our societies. And then one of the recommendations was that we have to strengthen the foundation for numeracy and literacy across school phases. Then one of them, again, the second one was to revise the promotion policy guide, which was there in order to address the issue of perceived automatic promotion. And another recommendation was to strengthen life skills across the curriculum, and also to introduce practical technical subjects which were needed in order to skill the graduates from basic education. The most important one was to expand higher level provision in schools, because since independence, when we introduced HIC, we did not expand in terms of number of schools which were offering higher level and number of learners which were offering higher level. So the problem which was indicated by schools was that parallel teaching, in which the two qualifications were taught together, ordinary and higher level at that time, were creating a problem in terms of timetablings. So a few schools which tempted, in most cases around Windhoek and the coast, has to teach in the afternoons and in weekends. So the rest, they remained on ordinary level. And I should indicate also here that strengthening of senior secondary curriculum or qualifications meant that we had to do away with score and extended options, which was offered especially in English and mathematics, in which majority of the learners, more than 95% on ordinary level, were following core option, which is the lowest level of curriculum and assessment standards. And what is AS then? I should indicate that AS is a one-year qualification which traditionally is completed after a child finishes ordinary level or IGCSE international, which is its own benchmarked curriculum. And why 2 exits in secondary school? First, I should remind the viewers that previously we had 2 exit points. We had the first exit point in grades at the end of junior secondary. And the second one in senior secondary, which was now parallel, 2 qualifications. But what we did now, we had to do away with the junior secondary exit point, and then separate, address the parallel teaching issue by following the Cambridge approach, in which first you must finish ordinary level and then do AS. Why did we move from higher level we were offering to AS? That's the question. First, I should indicate to say, upon independence, we crafted HIGC, which was like a hybrid between the former higher grade for Cape Town or South Africa and most of the aspects for AS we are taking now, which was meant to be a transition that as we catch up, we must transition to AS, which was now available with Cambridge. But then in 2010, upon the expiry of the accreditation agreement between the ministry and Cambridge, towards that conference I indicated, it was discovered that HIGC, we benchmarked our higher, did not exist anymore at Cambridge or in the world. So you cannot benchmark yourself on a ghost. You know, you have to benchmark yourself on something, the way we benchmark our rand, our dollar to a rand. So which means that was an opportunity after the conference, as it was recommended to expand on access for us as a nation to go for an available international qualification, which is AS, which is traditionally completed after ordinary level, and then you take 1 year, you complete AS, which is available with Cambridge. And then if we do that, we address the issue of parallel teaching and the issue of schools and the less learners taking higher, even though now it's called AS level. AS level, I should also indicate that it's a qualification which is recognized everywhere in the world. Many countries are doing it. And I should indicate here that it kind of develops among learners higher order thinking skills such as critical analysis, critical thinking, evaluation, and it provides in-depth content of a subject which is required for universities for a child to progress, in short.
It sounds like, for lack of a better word, a mouthful, but I think it gave us some form of context of where we came from, where the idea came from with regards to the whole AS, the setting up there of the rationale behind it. The context, I believe, has been laid. Now, Ms. Bond, we would like to hear or understand from you, what exactly is the passing criteria and requirements for the, first of all, the senior secondary certificate, ordinary level, and then also what is required for you to go to AS from the ordinary level?
Yeah.
I think those, I hope you understand, those, those are 2 different questions there.
Yes.
For me to be qualified and be stated to have passed my ordinary level, regardless of whether I'm going to AS or not, what is that level? What is the criteria, first of all? And second of all, what is my criteria of having passed this ordinary level to qualify, or the admission requirements for me to go to AS level?
Yeah, thank you so much. We must realize that this is all in a particular context. As a of grade 8 and grade 9, there are certain career choices in terms of subjects that are available for our learners. But at that level, we still try to keep them as widely educated as possible, that the final choices actually into which direction we are going is to be made at grade 10 and 11. That's at the NSSC ordinary level. So by that time, you have actually your choices have been informing the subjects that you need later also for university. So in order now to answer the question whether you have passed or not, we must see it in the context of positive achievement. So in the philosophy of our curriculum is learner-centered, and therefore there would never be like a pass like we had it, pre-independence, you have achieved, exemption or what matriculation exemption and things like that. That would not be written. What would be on our certificates are actually the achieved grades, and that is why universities attach certain point values to our grades. Now the grades are from A star, A, B, C, D, and then E, F, and G. So from that scale, we see already that the quality symbols are from D upwards. And in NDP, in the National Development Plan targets and also the ministerial targets, we used to count from D upwards. So we measure the performance of our system, and also of our candidates, of course, is what percentage of candidates achieved D or better in particular grades. So that is basically, you could say then, when you count on your fingers, the A, B, I mean 2 A's, B, C, D, and E, F, G, and then comes ungraded. That shows you that the D is somewhere in the middle. So it's your 50% benchmark. And that is what we actually want, and that's why we report nationally in our accountability reports to the D symbol. Accumulative, what means all the candidates that have achieved an A, an A star, B, C, and D are counted as a percentage of the total enrollment. So that is basically it. But it does not mean that the other grades, that's now E, F, and G, are without any value. So why do we say so? Why do we still include it in the grading, even though they are of lesser value in terms of providing you access to universities? Is because you still have achieved something in terms of the wide spectrum of basic competencies. So that is what we need to understand that context.
And now, the second part of that question was
Yes.
the requirements for me to move from ordinary to AS level. What are my requirements there?
Yeah, as I said before, it's also linked to your subject choices. So the basic requirement, I mean, set free or standing above all the study directions that you would like to achieve for us in the Ministry of Education, for you to proceed in any subject in your AS level studies or reach an AS level achievement qualification, means that you would have had to obtain a C in that particular subject at ordinary level.
Okay.
Now, the AS levels altogether are a more academic route. So they are the technical vocational subjects, which we would not offer at the core, technical vocational training subjects are not offered at advanced subsidiary level. But we do have entrepreneurship, accounting, economics, which are also pre-vocation, subjects, important subjects, but in career choices, and design and technology. And there's also integrated performing arts and arts as such. So that just gives you a highlight of that it is linked to your subjects. We might have candidates who fared very well in the technical vocational subjects and then, have achieved A's, B's, and C's there. And then they would have to articulate to vocational training centers. So then you have others who would have achieved A's and B's in the languages, and then we have, having achieved the languages, all these top grades, but you would like to become a medical doctor, then it will not be of advantage to your further studies if you have, then register for AS level in English, Afrikaans, and whatever other language there might have been, or other subjects that are from the social sciences field of studies. So these are the choices that we have to consider. That in this case, if you had not obtained C's in the science field subjects, then we would have to encourage you to resit through part-time or full-time, depending on whether space is available and whether your age would allow you to come back into full-time schooling.
Okay, there's a particular point on what you just explained now, but I'll come back to a bit later on. This is a national topic, and I think it's one of those very hot cakes at the moment. So you are welcome to engage with us on our social media platforms. You can find us on Facebook at Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Republic of Namibia. That is on Facebook, Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Republic of Namibia. You can also find us on YouTube. We have a channel on YouTube, and our handle is MICT Namibia. MICT Namibia. That is on YouTube. A bit later on within the session, we will be opening up our telephone lines, but not currently at the moment, just a little bit later on. And our line there is 061, being the area code. The number is 400-397. 400-397. That is the number to call a little bit later on in the session. Let's come back to the panelists, and we have Dr. Simalumba, and he's the director at MICT. And we also have Ms. Bon. She is the Deputy Executive Director for Formal Education with the Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture. Coming back to our questions. Doctor, we would like to know, what should the candidates, I know that Ms. Bon highlighted a little bit on this, but maybe you can give us better in-depth details on that matter. What should candidates consider when they're choosing their subjects on NSSCO level to inform their decision to progress with AS level, number one, and subsequently to tertiary education? What are the admissions thereof? Pardon me, not admission, but tertiary education admission. And also just give us examples of ordinary level subjects that are not offered on AS levels. I think that is the one thing that many parents and also somehow the learners out there also don't really have the full picture of what can I expect to find at AS level, so that I know what to choose when I'm starting off. For example, Ms. Bond mentioned that already from grade 8 and 9, you kind of have to start realigning yourself. So, Doctor, can you give us insight on that?
Thank you very much. For a child or a learner, in order to progress, first he must identify the field of study, which is now upon completion of junior secondary, when he starts with ordinary level, which should be informed by the career pathways or the future course the child wants to do, and he must consider the requirement for such course at universities. And then that will be informed by the field of study, which is the combination of core subjects. For example, if you want to follow engineering, it's critical that you have mathematics, physics, and the chemistry as part of your field of study, which is core. You have to pass them on ordinary level, then proceed with them on advanced subsidiary level, even though you may have English plus Oshindonga as additional just for point and for a person just to, to enrich, himself. Secondly, you may also take a subject as supplementary to that field in order to give you more wide options in case you want to divert or you want to be an entrepreneur upon completion. You may take entrepreneurship for interest's sake, only just to enrich yourselves.
Okay.
And then I should indicate here that there are certain subjects which are not available on AS level for reasons that they provide exit to VTCs, vocational. They are not academics, they are practical subjects. Technical subjects such as motor mechanic, woodwork, metalwork and welding, development studies, those ones, they end up only at ordinary level. If you want to proceed, because they are practical in nature, you just have to divert to go to VTCs where they do 50% practical and maybe 50% theory. But the most academic one, if you want to go more academic, technology way, then it means you must take mathematics, design and technology, plus one of either physics and chemistry. Then you go more to a university and engineering, which is an option in terms of, subject choices and the progression. So it's a worldwide trend.
Yeah.
These subjects, even with Cambridge, are not available at AS level, where you have to benchmark yourself. Just for those reasons also.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Ms. Bond, the AS level was only introduced last year. More so during a time that the country was trying, or still actually dealing with the impacts of COVID-19. And the Ministry of Education was actually one of those ministries that was extremely hard hit by COVID-19 because of all the implementation, and I mean emergency implementations that you had to do. Now the question that comes up for many, do we actually have adequate schools that offer AS level? Are they, and this I think is also the other important thing, are they well resourced? And when we speak about resourced, we are looking at material, teaching material, learning material. And we are also looking at the teachers themselves. Are they well equipped to teach the AS level with regards to skills and qualifications?
Yeah. The 102 schools that we have for advanced subsidiary during the last year, we have resourced them. Those schools, the government schools, we have resourced them intensively. Most of all, made sure that they have internet connectivity, as well as our big achievement was to procure these interactive smart boards, where the teachers actually could link up with the, renowned sources that enable then the teachers and the learners to have the learning content to be enriched.
Yeah.
So as we know, then there are YouTube videos, there are other explanatory notes, the practical activities might be displayed through videos, recordings and so on.
Yeah.
So in cases where there might not have been the apparatus and the practical equipment available, they would have still been through the use of these internet-based resources. But we also bought textbooks and more so encouraged teachers and learners to make use of electronic-based resources. So yes, there's always a report of what we have achieved, but of course, there can be also improvement.
Okay.
So ideally, we would like to see that every learner has, access to a device themselves, whether it's a smartphone or a tablet or alike. And so also every teacher. And we are exploring how to, deploy resources to make sure that connectivity is there all the time. And that is how shall I say, is a collective effort between, the telecommunication providers, ourselves, I mean, the ministry that's hosting us. It is a constant dialogue, as well as together with development partners. There are SADC-based or even AU-based initiatives to strengthen countries in the delivery of e-learning. So Namibia is an active partner to these dialogues and interventions. So it is all, how do we say, it's learning in doing.
Yes.
So unfortunately, that's the case. Every change comes with these growing pains, but I think we have achieved a lot,
Yeah.
and we can build on those achievements to continue excelling and improving access as well as the quality.
Okay. I think we would also like to know, do these schools, 102 schools in a country with 14 regions, do they include the previously disadvantaged as well as the remote areas of our countries? Or is it more town-based schools?
The schools are fairly well spread throughout the country. In every region, there are schools accessible for learners. Ideally, they should have hostels. So I cannot vow for that every higher level, or what this is now AS level school has access to a hostel. But what I meant to say is that we based this rollout of establishing AS level schools on the experience of higher level.
Yeah.
So that was a prerequisite, because only if you had that experience you could continue.
Okay.
So there is that dialogue in terms of building further capacity.
Yeah.
We are fully aware with this change in numbers. We had 2007 candidates who achieved and who sat for the exams for whom we had school space in 2021. Now we have 8,817 candidates, so we are challenged with the expansion, but we are handling it. We are in constant dialogue with our regions. They are, feeling we are ready to embrace all of these. And then as the years come, we also wish to engage further to build the capacity of our teachers to be able to actually teach at this advanced subsidiary level. So in an ideal situation and a nation that is growing academically and, aspiring to a knowledge-based economy, we have to expand the access so that at the end, those who are entitled to an academic career in terms of aptitude and commitment and drive have the opportunity to have access to that. So that is why we also say it's across all regions that we provide access. And mind you, I think it's a remarkable achievement that all Namibian languages, local languages in terms of teaching and learning at secondary level are offered at AS level. And it was also those subjects that performed the best in terms of being graded D and above.
Okay.
So that is a good milestone.
Okay, so, sorry, Doctor, just a quick follow-up on that one. Has the ministry had incidences where, just a hypothetical example, where you have a student in a very remote area of the country that has performed extremely well, they qualify for AS level, but where they were, the school doesn't offer AS level. Has the ministry had to deal with such scenarios, and what are the financial implications? Does it fall completely on the parent to pay for this hostel, or does the ministry meet the parent halfway to that regard? Because clearly that means that this learner would have to be placed in a school a bit off or further away from their home environment. Has the ministry have to deal with something like that?
Yeah, we have had situations like that, and we support those learners from, disadvantaged households or socioeconomic less stable to be supported in terms of the necessary resources, whether it's, the learning support material or the school. There shouldn't be school fees, but yes, supporting the finances. That is now the hostel accommodation, asking for exemption and so on. So we have had situations like that, and they are procedures that have to be followed, and our regional directors are fully aware, and they would channel these up to our executive director for approval for exemption.
Yeah. You want to add something, Doctor?
Let me add also, I think the DD indicated quite rightly. As a matter of fact, that one of the requirements was to have a science lab for such a school to be identified and then especially the experience in teaching a higher level made Namibia the journey to AS a bit better, easier compared to other countries in SADC who wish to follow us, but they did not do higher. They are just on ordinary. And the matter of fact is that these schools have hostel as a requirement.
Yeah.
Also created a condition because AS level learners are a priority in the hostel, meaning these schools are like a hub in the region to cater for learners from feeding schools.
Yeah.
You know, but they'll need to kind of expand.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's one of the, I think, the advantages.
Okay,
Yes.
I think it's like Ms. Bond said, it's growing pains,
Yeah.
where with every new thing, there is a challenge that you kind of have to tackle as you move on.
It arises.
Yeah. Doctor, we'd like to stay with you. Now, here's one question that came through our platforms, and many people, they're trying to gain understanding, and maybe this is the right platform to help us to educate our nation. They're trying to gain understanding on how a learner who has obtained less points, because remember, as much as we are using symbols, our universities are transforming those symbols into points. Now, the people want to understand, a learner who gets less points gets to qualify to AS level, while the one who obtained higher points now is, for lack of a better statement or way to phrase it, classified as a failure. How do the two respective offices now respond to this, especially with the fact that you're both stakeholders in trying to build our, Namibian child? I'll give you an example that we received. You will have a learner 1, who will have basically an A+ symbol, a B symbol, and 4 Ds. And if I'm not mistaken, this equates to about 30 points. Then you have learner 2, who will have 3 Cs, 1 F, and 2 Gs, that equates to 19 points. Learner 1 is then classified as a fail, while learner 2 is classified as a pass, and this is with regards to qualifying to AS level. Can Doctor maybe assist us to that regard?
Yes, first I should indicate that all these learners did not fail. It's just a question of performance. But then to advance to AS level, it's not based on the point. It's based on how well you are prepared in order for you to succeed on AS in that specific subject. Meaning how well the benchmark, it's a C. And that's also a standard worldwide. We focus on that subject, that course. No, not overall, but on that course. That's the kind of the difficulty which is there. So the person with 4 Ds, if he registers in that subject and then proceed, the possibility are very high that he will not be able to succeed in AS because it's highly demanding. It's highly demanding. But then the dilemma with this one, which is the Cs, is only that unless this child scores B or C in AS level, that's when he will achieve maybe 27 points, because points for AS are higher. The lowest in AS, which is E, is 5 points. You see now, 5 points. And an A is almost 12 points. On NAST, I think it's around 11. Compared, in fact, the E, which is for AS, is equivalent to a D in ordinary in terms of point scales.
Okay.
Yes, so it's only that when they go to the university, depending on the field of study, the university may need a child to have passed in a core subject forming that field of study. Maybe there's a requirement also for English. He's supposed to improve on it. So we are not looking at overall performance, but how well is that child prepared in order to progress in each of the subjects with a minimum of 3 Cs and over, yes.
Okay, but staying with you want to add? Yes, Ms. Bond.
Add also in this this particular case, no, with the A, the B, and then the Ds, and then we have the Cs, the F and G, and so on. So it all depends on the direction you want to go, because for even the candidate with many Cs who can, of course, continue, the F and G might be an obstacle later on. So that is the intricacy. So altogether, we actually have to work a little extra hard to eliminate the performance below D. That is actually what the ultimate aims are. So the A and B, and if the candidate could articulate to a certain program at a tertiary institution, it's perfect for this candidate to continue with that tertiary education. But we can also not label this candidate or this school leaver as a failure. He does not meet the entry requirements for AS level. What we also need to realize at this point in time is that school starts from pre-primary. Your year 1 at school is actually pre-primary. And coming to the NSSC ordinary level exam is your 12th year. You have been 12 years at school. And that is why we say it's that exit point of the, that basic education. So, and in order to improve the articulation to institutions of higher learning in terms of academic articulation, that's where the AS level comes in. So we would not like to see this system at all as pass and fail. Unfortunately, that's how we grew up in the country, and that we also talk about repeaters, and we want people to repeat who have not met a certain requirement, But ultimately, every learner should continue his education without repetition and build on with the necessary learner support. Because in an ideal system, you build the foundation from the start and make sure that there are no voids in that foundation and as you grow. So the ideal system would work that way.
Just to follow up on that one, you mentioned earlier on certain subjects connected to certain fields of study at tertiary level. And thus, it is ideal for this child to ensure that they qualify to AS level, and also their choices of subjects from a much lower grade has to align with this. Now, the question that I would like to follow up with that one is, how do you then deal with a child who does not necessarily their field of study at tertiary level is not necessarily connected to a particular subject at high school level. And now, it's like this child is left in limbo because, number one, they don't qualify to AS, and a lot of our tertiary institutions, I won't say they're not completely taking learners that just exit at ordinary level, but their priority goes with the AS level qualifiers. And I remember with last year, I believe UNAM gave a statement to a certain regard with regards to the ordinary level exiting learners. Was it last year or the year before last year? Where does this leave this child now who has, as we said, has not failed ordinary level, but they do not qualify to go to AS level, but they also don't want to go to a vocational training, institution. How do they then get into to tertiary without necessarily having to follow a path that forces them to be in part-time institutions?
Yeah. In another discussion, I mentioned this as a particular white space, perhaps, in higher education. And we are still engaging with higher education on that, because in the past, we used to have diploma programs, certificate programs, and degree programs. But even in the teacher education career development, we have moved away from diploma holders. We had encouraged, or that was working from the premises of the wish to improve quality. There was a decision taken, let us only offer degree programs for aspiring teachers. But we also know that diploma programs still did evolve in the
Yes.
process. So that is the same because, demand and provision, and
Yeah,
supply
yeah.
should inform at the end the system.
Yeah.
So in other countries, you might find, colleges and so on. So for us, I feel, yes, we are expanding the technical vocational training sector, but the way how we have, the progression rate for us in secondary education, where we had the previous years in the 21,000 something candidates sitting for the NSSC ordinary, and we now had 46,000. You see already. It's not just double, but it's close to exponential increase. So that exponential increase has also created a demand at higher education in terms of, diploma programs or technical vocational and so on. The other option for these candidates, of course, is then to improve their symbols. And whether it's to, through private providers, provided they are registered with Education, Arts and Cultures, part-time institutions, or even the institution NAMCOL, our partner in bridging that gap to improve their symbols.
Okay. Staying with the part-time institutions, recently there was a circular titled the Formal Education Circular, number 3 of 2022. This circular states that learners who improved through part-time institutions and obtained Cs have to continue on a part-time basis and will not be allowed to rejoin full-time classes at AS level. Does this not create congestion on the part-time institutions? And also, it is our, from our observation, it's as if this information was not adequately transferred, because many of our learners had the impression that once they improved their subjects, they could go back to AS level. Maybe...
Yes, in the years before, we had even articulated it that way. And I think the big challenge in this year is this increase in the AS level. By pure numbers, it is like a 44% increase. This didn't double totally, because then we would have 10,000, but it is at 8,817. And it's us struggling to provide space for them. But our instruction through our minister to our regional directors was also make an assessment, because unfortunately we cannot do the assessment. I mean, that is now analyzing the data of the 7,000 something. There are slightly more than 7,000 who took the subjects part-time to improve, because you have to do it on a one-on-one. That analysis. You cannot, because candidates register for a subject. We don't know what their subjects were before. So it's a bit of a challenge to do it just IT-based. So the individuals who wish to do, and register again full-time for AS level, because they have now their palette, all the Cs that they require, even if they are 5. They need to make contact with the regional office, that is the director directly, because through our minister, the instruction is there that they have to interrogate those demands on a one-on-one. And it is just for the fact that if we look at the macro level, overall, currently we don't have space. Remember, we had the 5,000. We are working hard in this week, and we assure the nation that by Monday 28th, the last day of February, February, AS classes should resume. All learners should know exactly where to go. So in this process, we will also come to know these candidates. And then we want to remain open in dialogue, but we also want to give them the option to continue part-time. That is basically, it's a two-way process, but we are not totally shutting our doors to them. And this comes through our Honorable Minister, Esther Anna Hipundoka, who has requested the directors to really look into that.
I think the most important message to take away with that one is the fact that it's not a solid wall. You know, it's on merit, it's on individual basis, it's on assessment. I think that's the most important thing.
Yes.
Assessment will be done to that regard, and where possible,
Yes.
you know, accommodation will be made. We've got a comment here from our Facebook platform, and Mr. Pardon me, don't know whether it's Mr. or Miss, PN Njimba would like to say, kindly shed some light on learners who improved their grade 11 results and currently they are facing difficulties to be allowed to rejoin full-time studies basis from grade 12. I think we just answered that particular question.
Contact
So,
details.
Mr. Jimba or Ms. Jimba, I believe that your question has been addressed. Thank you very much for communicating with us via our platform. And also we are reminding our viewers that you can do the same. You can follow Mr. or Mrs. Jimba's example, communicate through our social media platforms, that is Facebook. We are at Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Republic of Namibia, and on YouTube we are at MICT Namibia. Our phone lines are 061 400 397, 061 400 397. For those who are just joining us now, our topic for the day, it is the clarification of the advanced subsidiary, which is commonly known as AS level in our education system, which was recently introduced as last year. Getting back to the questions at hand, also now we are staying with the same circular. This circular also states that depending on the availability of space at schools, ordinary level learners of the revised curriculum who are 17 years old and younger by the 31st of December 2022 should be allowed to repeat ordinary level at full-time basis. Now, in a scenario where a learner is older than 17 years old and has not met the admission requirements for AS level, is this not a bit prejudice to push this child out of the formal education system, since technically they have not failed the grade, but merely just didn't meet the qualification to proceed to AS level? I mean, we are familiar with various scenarios within our, you know, environments as a nation, as the world, that sometimes, you know, a child is older of age at a particular level of their, you know, school career, not necessarily by their own doing, but circumstances, whether in the home or whether the movement of parents with regards to jobs and so on. I think, Doctor, maybe you can assist us with that one?
Okay. Yeah, first I should indicate here, you know, by referring you to the old practice, where they used to exit in junior secondary, which is grade 10, currently equivalent to grade 9. That half of the learners used to exit there, younger than now, when the first exit is ordinary in grade 12, in grade 11. So in such, research has shown us that learners normally perform well, quite well. When they choose, they select and register on part-time basis, 2 or 3 subjects, few. In most cases, they achieve good symbols.
Okay.
Than forcing them again to take the rest, because the danger of repeating full-time is that you forfeit symbols for the previous year, first year when you failed. You forfeit them. You might perform even more worse.
Okay.
And also the issue of space, all of them cannot kind of, you know, repeat. Others must move forward, and so that we have got space for the young ones in pre-primary and grade 1 to come in also within the system.
Okay.
So learners should be able to flow as long as there's an opportunity that if they qualify as Ms. Eda has just indicated, they can come back again for AS level.
Okay.
So the age, I think, they're a bit matured. Yes.
But what I also can add is there are these exceptional cases where we know that an overaged learner was admitted to school through the executive director's permission already. And then what we also consider the special circumstances throughout 10 and 11. So we had those households that were really heavily struck by COVID, in terms of illness, but also death, in terms of socioeconomic circumstances. So if their learners sometimes drop out and they have the wish to come back as full-time.
Yeah.
So these exceptional cases where they engage with the school principal and the school principal engages with us,
Yeah.
and so on, those permissions can be granted.
Okay.
But altogether, it's also that efficiency measure
Yeah.
that it is actually in the candidate's favor to repeat only those subjects where that improvement is needed.
Okay. This is actually enlightening a lot of our people, because I know there is a lot of anxiety with regards to this. As we said, it's a new direction that we have taken. It's the first time that we're having to deal with this. So as you said earlier on, it's growing pain, progression, improvement, and so on. We've got another comment from our Facebook, and Adolphine Kaliki is saying, why is it that that development studies is offered in grade 11, but not on AS level? What happens to someone who has 3 Cs and above in 3 subjects, including development studies? Maybe we can just refresh on that particular point. It is a good point, and this allows us to give specific examples. So, Doctor, maybe you can assist with that one?
I'll start on that one. First, it's one of the subjects ending on ordinary level. It's because there is no sister subject on AS level with Cambridge where it can be benchmarked. If I compare it with entrepreneurship is benchmarked on enterprise as a subject on AS, which is existing. By benchmarking, I'm talking that the standard of the syllabus must be the same here, and the form of assessment in terms of level must also be the same. But however, we are still discussing this and see what we will do with development studies. So if a learner passed 3 Cs with development studies is not qualifying for AS, because a child supposed to do 6 subjects, and then out of that 6 subjects, he's supposed to know which ones are available on AS and which one is not available in order to put efforts.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. This is Manene Shivo is also asking a question with regards to subjects. What is the need of offering subjects that are not on AS level in grade 11? Maybe Ms. Bond, we can just assist there.
To explain that at the NSSC ordinary level, that is the so-called grade 11, that is the basic education exit point. So what the qualifications we there offer are to open your pathways to a technical vocational training, but also to an academic training. So that is where we allow learners to take the technical subjects such as integrated performing arts, fashion and fabrics, metalwork and welding. We also have woodwork, we have hospitality, and so on. These are subjects that articulate to technical vocational training centers. So that is for the candidates who would like to go into a technical direction. They could also become self-employed. So that is the notion that the reviewed curriculum gives you more pathways than before, because before it was just you come to grade 10, you don't achieve academically, then you're out. Remember, there was that 23-point benchmark or sieving scale. So now, if you have chosen subjects and you aim to follow an academic career, then you must choose the subjects carefully in that direction. So that is why there will always only be academic subjects at AS level.
Okay. We've got Gail Yanyari, and Gail is asking, kindly advise students who qualify for AS level, but the school is rejecting them. What do they do then in such a situation?
Yeah, it depends on what subject choices there are. So I have situations like that have come to my attention also, and we need to explore what is the reason. It could be either that the subject choices at the schools are not offered, or that the classes are full. So then these learners really have to make, or these candidate school leavers, NSSC or graduates have to make contact then with the regional office. And if they do not get an answer there, they are open to contact us. We will find a way. Where is the obstacle? And but in many cases, we have also found that the subject choices are not known. But what we then do is we engage with all regional directors, knowing all the schools and the fields of studies that are offered at the schools to find a space actually for that learner. That's what we do, where we come in.
Okay. We have just a few minutes left to spare. The lines are open. You can call us. The area code is 061. The number is 400-397. That's the number 400-397. That's the number in the studio. Doctor, we would like to know from your observation, you were quite experienced within the sector of education. Ms. Bond as well. We've known the two of you for quite some time. You're well vested. The one other concern that is out there is, okay, fine, we have these learners that did not make it to AS level. They unfortunately cannot go back to the formal education system, whether it's their age or so on. Now they have to approach whether it's VTCs, vocational training, and so on, that they qualify for at this exiting point. From your experience within the education sector, knowing these institutions, these TVET institutions, can they, with all honesty, absorb the number that we're sitting with? Because I remember NAMCO spoke about having a cap on for each subject that they offer. I remember places like MICT has a capacity cap with regards to the number of people that they can accommodate. So just give us some form of observation or observational opinion on that, if I can, for lack of a better word.
First, I should indicate that when we started this curriculum reform around 2012, all institutions of higher learning, including NTA, they were even highly involved in our technical subject, So they had what we call expansion programs over the past 10 years.
Yes.
Even though resources is also a problem, but really they expanded. When talking to them, expansion in terms of space, and then opening up some new VTCs like in Hobabis. And also expanding, meaning diversifying some programs. They also tried their best to do that. And we should understand that around the world, vocational education, it's a driver, a driver for economic development. So, yes, they may have limitations according to programs, depending on the availability of lecturers, to call them. But I will encourage them to register themselves in these institutions if space is available and their trade of choice is open, because there is a future. It develops among them practical skills for self-employment and also to employ others. For those who may not, they can also kind of, register for NAMCOs in other institutions, if possible. So, yes, the number may be big, but there is an opportunity. Definitely.
Ms. Bond, the recently released NSSCO examination results, they revealed that a minimum number of learners qualified for AS that has contributed to an unsatisfactory performance. Now we would just like to know, can you give us an idea of what are the measures and plans that the ministry has in place to ensure that learners improved performance in the future?
The academic performance is laid as from the foundation. That means pre-primary onwards. And if you interrogate pre-primary teachers, they might also say again, yeah, but also kindergarten.
Yeah.
So the Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture is engaged together with the Ministry of Gender Equality, Poverty Eradication
Yeah.
on exploring how to strengthening the service delivery, that's of ECD, in the age bracket of 3 to 4. That's now the kindergarten, because 5 to 6 is in pre-primary with us already. So we are exploring that to really strengthen the quality delivery at kindergarten already. And throughout, the Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture has recently launched the Jolly Phonics training that is now improving phonics at primary level, junior primary, in order to improve reading and writing. And those are the skills that, you know, are built throughout the school career in order to improve. We are also anticipating to embark on massive teacher training to build the capacity of the teachers to be better equipped to teach at NSSC ordinary level, because we know that we have opened up the system to absorb all. There's nobody falling out at the end of grade 9, all that were in grade 9. We also have that policy where we say you can only repeat once in a phase. Now imagine somebody who struggled coming from senior primary into grade 8, fails grade 8, but cannot fail, you know, repeats grade 8 and cannot repeat grade 9 again, but ends up in grade 10. So coming with that, a little bit of a backlog needs extra learner support. So we are also working hand in hand with development partners, as well as our head office directorates and regional directorates to strengthen learner support, to identify those with learning difficulties early enough and support them adequately to improve. Furthermore, also, as we said, expansion, more teachers have to teach at senior secondary level with perhaps less experience. So we wish to train these teachers through, you know, crash courses, upgrading, refresher courses, we also call them, and so on. And there we will want to work together with the, you know, enterprises, local business people to support us. Because at the end, the success is owned by all of us, and we have to pool resources to make it possible.
Staying with an example that you gave now, and also referring to the circular that came out recently, the number 3 of 2022, it does actually state that a grade 9, and this, by now we are familiar with the fact that this is the second half of junior secondary. These learners who did not meet the promotion requirements and have already repeated in the phase should progress to grade 10. You did speak about learner support and so forth, but the circular places emphasis on having this learner support at the grade 10 and grade 11 level. Our question then now becomes, can this emphasis not be placed from a grade 8 level, first of all? Because if you are now to progress this person from grade 9 to grade 10, it's as if you're somehow setting them up for failure. And then maybe also just enlighten us with examples where the ministry or the stakeholders that you spoke of have maybe given support to the various schools with regards to the learner support that we would like them to give to these learners that need that extra assistance, because I'm sure this is outside of their normal daily scope, and in, you know, at times maybe might require financial assistance as well, or material support as well. Can we have some examples of that, Ms. Bond?
Yes, we have developed the learner support program, and even for the junior grades and how to do early intervention. That training is given to the life skills teacher, and life skills is compulsory for every school. So our life skills teachers are trained in order to provide that learner support. But we also know that at times we have these big schools and we might have only one life skills teacher, so we
Yeah.
need to do load sharing with that
Yeah.
responsibility and find a way as a collective to make it work. Development partners who assisted us in this area, of course, UNICEF, the Japanese development cooperation, but we are also working with the Russing Foundation, who have, plowed in resources with practical training for mathematics and sciences, science subjects, and so there are pocketed interventions where that improvement is happening, but we still need to make sure that the improvement is everywhere. And that is where our challenge is, but we are determined to work with our regional directors, focused to those who need our help the most.
Okay. Unfortunately, as per usual, time has caught up with us, and we can only wish for more time. This is definitely a pertinent topic, and where possible, I believe we will return it to our platform so that we can further engage the experts in the sector of education to help us understand and help us to create solutions for our learners who are now feeling anxious and feeling stranded, and also trying to mitigate the psychological factors that could have on them. So that is one of the topics that we're trying to look at also next week, the psychological effects that a learner goes through. So also do join us at the JIC for that particular topic. From ourselves here in our studio, we'd like to thank our panelists for making the time out to help us educate our nation. Education is definitely one of the most important keys or driving keys with regards to growth of any nation. And there is that, they call it a tripartite, where it is the learner, the teacher, and the parent. So it is of great importance for us to educate each other where one does not understand something. But with that, we would like to thank you for joining us today. So from myself, Shianua Desire Kahiha, along with our production group, we would like to say bye-bye.